Hey, what's up everybody, BDF 44 coming at you another video. Alright, so I got all that out. I just got through making yet another message to Draymond Green. Speaking to him and anybody else that may be suffering from something that they may not have realized they're suffering from, and because of it may not necessarily have everything that they need around them to kind of get them out of them circumstances. Whatever that looks like for you, whatever that may look like for that person, rather. That's what that is about. It's got his name on it, but there are a lot of people out there that I see that way, that may have that kind of thing going on in their dynamic. And they need to see that video just like I believe his people and himself need to see those videos. There's two of them. They see them. But, yeah, man, I'm headed to my therapy session. Actual therapy session. I said I was going to make that loud on the therapy session, but now I put Dre's name on that. I want to see that. But, you know, it's one of those situations where it's like, for me, having a pretty good day, man. Had some really interesting dreams. It's really fascinating how I was sitting in that room last night, and I promise you, it was around 2:30 in the morning again. I woke up second night in a row, 2:30 in the morning, thinking it was 5 something, but this time I was like, you know what, it probably ain't 5 something. It was one of those this time. But I woke up out of the dream, and there was a lot of parts to this dream. One aspect of the dream was me getting something, and it's kind of morbid, but it was like I was getting chicken wings, and these are things that we've been talking about. So like bone sticks, I was telling y'all, like drumsticks for chicken. I had some drumsticks, and then I guess some of the stuff that I've been seeing from Gaza and all of that carnage is starting to seep into my inner mindset. I found myself with a piece of some human flesh or something like that, and it got in there with my bone sticks, as to where like it's all raw meat, but you could tell that one piece of it wasn't chicken. And so I'm like, all right, in my mind's eye, let me flush this down the toilet. Now in real life, obviously you don't flush drumsticks down the damn toilet. But for me, it was like, I was in like some state of shock when I realized what I was actually holding. And it was like, all right, I can't cook this, I can't. So the only thing I could think of to do is just get rid of it and flush it down the toilet. I didn't want to put it in the trash can for obvious reasons. You know, that kind of thing. It was like, yo, I got to get rid of this. So I flushed all of it down the toilet. And of course, it clogged up the toilet. And somehow, somebody that I called on to help me with it, I don't know where I was at. I might have been at the Studio Lodge Hotel. I don't know who that would have been in my dream to make that equivalent. But somebody I got a hold of told me what to use to dissolve it. It wasn't going to be a plunger. They definitely didn't want to call a plumber. I needed that to dissolve. And since it's bone, if I used a certain type of something, some type of acid or something, it would dissolve all that and just clear it up. So the person handed it to me, and that's what it was. So that was a very morbid aspect of my dream, man. But then, somewhere in that dream, not too long after that, I'm going to try to remember all of this. But I ended up, God, I want to get this right. It was a situation where I was in some type of I don't know exactly where I was at. I might have been at this old children's club place that I used to go to in Hollywood that I may have shown you guys a lot of times, now turned into a big old building. But the old club, not the one that further came, but the one back in the 80s that we went to before we moved to what would be considered the new club in like 95. So the old club, it looked like the setting of the old club. And it was one of those situations where I saw this kid that I knew from back in the day. His name was Rudy. And I haven't seen Rudy in a long time. Rudy was a Utah Jazz fan. I ain't forgot Rudolpho at all. I haven't forgotten him. But I saw him in the mirror, and he looked like a combination of several people. Rob Schneider, the actor, and himself. He looked like a combination of those two people. I don't know why. But in the dream, I walked past the mirror that he was looking in. I guess I was walking past the children's club bathroom, is what I would say that is. And he was looking at himself in the mirror. And as I was walking by, he looked and he saw me. And I saw him through the reflection of that mirror. And there was something in his eyes that told me, yo, don't just walk past this dude. He looks like he's screaming from behind his eyes. Even though his face is pretty deadpan, you need to make sure he's straight. It's one of them things where it's like in life, like, man, I wish I could have read their eyes better because they were about to do something crazy. And maybe I could have stopped them. I had the feeling it was one of those. So I'm like, you know what? In the moment, I get this. I totally get this. Let me go back and make sure Rudy's straight. So I walked back over there. I doubled back. looked at him through the mirror, and he said to me, "You remember the movie Little Giant?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't remember the movie Little Giant." He was like, "That movie ain't what you think it's about. It's about wanting to tell the truth and from there drowning because of it." Very, very strange words. I don't remember the movie Little Giant. I don't even know what the hell if that was really a movie. But when I woke up out of that dream, my homegirl Karen came to mind. And essentially what came to mind was she was in a space in my mindset where she kind of felt that way, you know? She kind of felt like her truth would likely put her in a position either to be judged or trying to express whatever it was that was true to her wouldn't be understood. So therefore, she just didn't feel the need to communicate. And I'm like, and that makes sense to a degree. I mean, that's kind of what we've kind of discussed in a way, like not in so many words, but she made it clear to me like, yo, I don't want to explain myself. Having to explain myself, you don't get it. People don't get it. That's why I don't like to explain myself. I'm like, all right, this is kind of a prelude to that little bit of communication. And it was another part of the dream that I now remember before that. I was waiting for this to come back to me. It has. So I was in a different place. Kind of looked like the extension of the same children's club, but like an entirely different part of it that wasn't actually in real life existence. It was like a restaurant part of it. It looked like a combination of where I used to work at the ESPN Zone and the children's club, where I used to go as a child. So in this space, essentially, what I was doing was helping a friend of mine with some food that she was catering, as if I was still a busser at the ESPN Zone. It's like helping a server out. And everything I tried to do, this friend of mine, this homegirl named Ty, that I haven't seen in a very long time. I left her, haven't spoken to her in a very long time. Kind of stopped talking to her the same way Karen kind of stopped talking to me. Had a really close relationship, friendship rather, and it just kind of, I let it disappear. I stopped communicating. She stopped reaching out. She used to tell me that I, being distant would hurt her feelings, just like with Kay. I did this to Ty. I did. That's why I know Karen is just karma spelled differently. Because a lot of the stuff that Karen has done in regards to disappearing, or how I perceive her disappearing on me, is the exact same way I used to do other people. Particularly Ty comes to mind. And other people I've done this to as well. Friends that I know are good friends of mine, that I tricked myself out of good friendships just by being the way that I was. But this dream helped me understand what it was that I was. So in helping Ty bust these tables or try to do her catering service and be a waiter to these tables, everything that I tried to do to help Ty cater to these tables would be wrong. I would get the order wrong, try to carry the maitre d' thingy, whatever they call it, drop everything every time. Like, it wasn't just me dropping the food once. I was dropping the food 3 times in the dream, trying to take it from where they were cooking it to the table, and I'd drop it every time. And it was one of those situations where after we finished the shift, she told me she had a headache. She didn't get on my case about none of my mistakes. That's the key to this. It wasn't like she was harping any pressure on me at all. It was just me understanding that everything I tried to do for her in her presence, I would do in error. I was doing it wrong. And so in that mindset, I'm like, all right. She said at the end of the shift, man, she said she wasn't feeling good or something. So I'm like, let me go to the first aid kit. And she ain't asking me to get her nothing. She just told me she wasn't feeling good. And so in my attempts to get her some aspirin or whatever at the first aid kit, I'm like, let me just do this. I done messed up everything else. I'm still trying to do for this person. I got it in my heart I want to make this easier for her. She's not paying me for this. But even though everything I'm doing could easily be paid for, whether I'm doing it right or not, I'm doing work. She's getting paid for it. But it's like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to be a genuine friend. I'm here to do things out of the goodness of my heart. I'm here to assist with the job itself without any money coming my way. And out of the goodness of my heart, at the end of the day, after doing everything wrong, I'm like, let me go get her some aspirin from the first aid kit. And when I went into the room where the first aid kit was, an entire shelf fell on my back. But the key to that was I was strong enough to hold the shelf up. But if I moved at all, the shelf was coming down. So it's like the shelf don't hurt as it fell on me, but I can't push it back up. I can only hold it up or walk away for it and let it come down. So either I can stand there for the rest of my life to keep it from tumbling down, or I can just accept the fact that because I walked in here to do this, something I did in this room brought this shelf down, and everything on this shelf needs to not fall. So I stand there for a couple minutes, and I realize I'm my mind telling me to go ask for help, but because I didn't messed up everything else in that room, in that job, I was ashamed to ask for help or scream for help. And so I just stood there for a second. I had the aspirin in my hand, so I'd already secured that. But I had no way to get it to her, because if I walk away from the shelf, it's gonna fall. I walked out of there, let the shelf fall, and then walked past the bathroom and saw Rudy. That's how that went. I wish I could have told y'all that in sequence, but that's exactly how that went. And he proceeded to tell me about the movie Little Giant, and how telling the truth made it seem like you were drowning. And the moral of the movie was that, for which the person in the movie was telling the truth, and in telling the truth, they were drowning, so to speak. And in that whole situation, at that point, I wake up and immediately think of Kay, and how maybe I made her feel small in some way, like maybe I felt Ty was doing with me, even though Ty never held me accountable for any things I did wrong in the dream. But maybe just the same, because of everything she was trying to do, maybe she wasn't perceiving it was working out, or maybe she felt small for whatever reason, whether my doing or just something she perceived. Maybe me trying to continue to reach out to her only made it so that pressure was more so. Like, the Lord helped me fathom where maybe I was creating an anxiety within my friend by heaping so much pressure on her in such a way that maybe I didn't perceive beforehand. Yeah, I was thinking about my friend Ty, and how, I told her this, and I'm gonna tell y'all this. A lot of times when I speak to Ty, she would speak to me sometimes all day long. We'd stay on the phone for hours back when we first met. But for whatever reason, because Ty was so intelligent, she was highly, highly intelligent, still is, obviously, I felt inadequate speaking to her. The way she would phrase certain things when I'd make certain mistakes, and I would have certain not anxieties, but just freeze up because I just didn't know better. That would make me not want to communicate with her, because I felt small mentally in her presence, because she was so intelligent, and because she didn't word or phrase things in a way for me to feel any less than small when she would be frustrated at certain things that I would say in mistake. Now, that spoke to my own insecurity, immaturity, perception of things, or however it went. Maybe she could have massaged things differently had she been more mature in certain ways. Maybe her personality was that she didn't have a whole lot of patience for stupidity, or however she perceived it. But because I was getting that from her, it made me want to leave her life, even though she was a really good friend. And I just thought about, like, wow, Karen is karma spelled differently, but even more so, it's also probably something that within what it is I felt toward Ty is probably the same thing I'm doing to Karen in some different way, or could be possible at least. Not to say that I'm so much smarter and no stupid stuff like that, but to say whatever that would be in her world might be the same damn thing that I was feeling in a different way. That same demon, so to speak, that was trying to trick me out of that friendship with Ty is probably the same demon trying to trick her out of knowing me to whatever degree would be best. And it just helped me understand, like, yo, do I make my loved one feel small by having all these different things that I talk about, trying to apply these real, woke conversations to her, expecting so much from her as it pertains to communication and maturity? It just helps you understand, like, yo, you could legitimately be bringing out an insecurity within someone where otherwise they would just rather avoid. And though they may love you, They may not love how they feel in your presence. And that's what I got from it. And the truth may make them feel like they're drowning if they have to express it. Maybe they can only take you in doses. I started thinking about all the people that I knew and loved that I could only take in doses. Friends that I genuinely love, but I don't necessarily feel I'm best for speaking with them every day. It's like, is that what's going on there? It seems like that makes sense. That adds up, so to speak. And so that's what came to mind. I woke up 2:30 in the morning and I told Kay about the dream. And I let her know about my friend Ty and how that whole thing was perceived in my mind. Everything I just told y'all, I told Kay in her inbox, and I just left it there. And she did respond. And she told me something about her phone having been disconnected since her birthday and all of the, you know, and it was one of those situations where it's like, the point is, that dream really helped me understand what could be the problem there and why I should let her have her space, why I should relate even more so to what it is that she may be feeling when she walk away from me than I actually thought I did. See, I knew I was doing that to others and that it was coming back to me, but I had forgotten what made me not give a damn about the karma coming back to me. It was because of how small I felt in the presence of certain people, or how much I felt more comfortable away from them because of my anxieties, or how much I just didn't want that friendship around because I might have saw something in those people that I didn't like, or how much I felt like I just couldn't make their lives better because of how I lived and how immature I was and how I wasn't ready to make some changes that otherwise their friendship would hold me accountable for making. All of those things should be more relatable to me now that I'm going through that with her. And that's what that dream helped me understand. Like, yo, you got her by 11 years. You know how much anxiety could come about when you start saying, hey, you or somebody this, that, and the third, and I want you to understand this, and why aren't you doing that? And you don't respect me because you're not doing that. And look at what you're doing over here. And that hurts my feelings. And why did you post that? You know I'm watching. And all of these different things that you're applying to somebody who just ain't there yet. And that you want them to be there, and that you hold them accountable for being there, is even more so reason why they need to not be. So that they can work their progressions properly, as they mature as they need to, without you seeping in, making things harder for them, so that every time they try to do something, it feel like they dropping it. Every time they need to do something, it feel like it's leaning on them. If they walk away from it, they're letting you down. I don't want to let my friend down by creating an environment for which she is not safe, to where she thinks she needs to be not letting me down. And in the process, she ends up letting me down, and then I further don't understand it. It's like that was what the Lord brought to me in dream. To say all of this needs to be understood right now. All of that is what I've been praying the Lord would help me understand. Like, Lord, help me understand better what it is that you want me to understand. If you want me to walk away from this person, if you want me to cut them off, you got to help me get it, so that it's not a fight within me, so that the enemy can't use this distance against me. And this is what came. It took some time, but this dream came and it helped me fathom so many different things that I needed to be able to imagine in order to properly see what role I need to be playing going forward in her life, in other people's lives, why this is coming my way, why I shouldn't be mad at her no different than I shouldn't be mad at myself for feeling that way in the past. And once you remove the understanding that something is happening to you, you just realize you're relatable to somebody who probably needs you to just get it. Rather than looking at it as karma coming back to haunt you, you met your match in somebody who has the same problem you do or something similar. And it's like, yo, the enemy wants you to think that you're being paid back for something wrong. But if you remember how you felt when you did those things, you'll understand that you didn't mean no harm. And God knows what's in your heart, so you ain't necessarily getting hit with karma. You're just simply meeting somebody you relate to. But you forget what it feels like to be in their shoes, although you've been in those shoes before. So I'm like, whoa, epiphany time, whoa. I get it. I get a lot more, but the problem is I don't know, because the lack of communication won't allow me to know if she's not confirming that any of this makes any sense. Maybe there's none of that. But that poem that I wrote a couple days ago that I couldn't give to you guys, and the prayers that the Lord's been putting in my heart, and the frustration that I had been feeling, the sadness I had been feeling, that I reinforced prayer into, instead of just letting it make me worse, it brought me to a space where I could at least cope with remembering how I felt when I was doing some of these same things to people that I cared for, remembering where I went wrong and seeing things that way, remembering where I did not care if karma was coming my way for treating people that way, because I had good reason for doing it in my mind, and I was going to stick to that and just live with the consequences. And here maybe they are, maybe. I remember one time I told my friend Karen, and I told you guys the same thing. I said, you know, if you do me wrong, God gonna get you back for that. But you gotta know God gonna know your heart first, though. As to where I don't. So when I'm saying he's gonna get you back, I'm not taking into account the wisdom that he's now shared with me, as to where I say, nah, you don't have to get her back. You just gotta have her back, and have mine too, as we go through this process of being attacked by the enemy, as it pertains to our friendship and using our weaknesses and our inadequacies or what have you, insecurities against us. As to say, I need to be able to relate to what she's doing, and she got to be able to not make the mistakes I made. And so it's like, oh, I get it now. That's what the meditation do. Oh, okay, I get it now. But it took real intent on turning to God through some really difficult times, or otherwise I turned to sin, to help me understand to do this. At times where I could have been reacting to my problem in a sinful way out of pain, I went to meditation, asked the Lord to help me. And in those moments, I was able to receive the epiphany that came to me in that dream last night. Had I been turning to different things that I otherwise would have did, trying to distract myself in different ways, I would have never been able to pray and thus receive what came from those prayers. You got to use your time wisely. That's what I'm telling all of you. You got to use your time wisely. The enemy's always going to want you to go into some folly or some nonsense or some lust or some type of drug or something to cope with what it is he's throwing at you. But God, I'm turning it into a lesson if you just choose him in those circumstances. He'll turn it into a lesson. He'll turn it into an epiphany. He'll turn it into some growth. But you got to be willing to turn to him first, and that's what I was willing to do on this occasion. Many times I did not. Many times I did not. So that's the lesson there, man. Hope everybody's enjoying their day. BDF 44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.